The first thing Captain Sarah Chen noticed about the distress signal wasn't its alien origin. She'd heard plenty of those in her 15 years commanding the UES Prometheus. It was the desperation. Even filtered through universal translators and compressed into digital packets, the raw terror in that transmission made her stomach clench. "Play it again, Martinez," she ordered, leaning forward in her command chair. The bridge of the Prometheus hummed with activity as her crew worked at their stations, but everyone had gone quiet when the signal first crackled through their speakers. Lieutenant Martinez's fingers danced across his communications console. "Yes, Captain. Here it is, cleaned up and translated." The voice that filled the bridge was high-pitched, almost melodic, but broken with panic. "This is Research Vessel Harmony of the Zilani Republic. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Our defensive systems are failing. We have civilians aboard, including younglings. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need immediate assistance. Our coordinates are." Static consumed the rest of the transmission. "That's all we got, Captain," Martinez reported. Signal cut off mid-sentence. "Based on the transmission degradation, I'd estimate it's about 6 hours old." Chen felt her jaw tighten. 6 hours. In space combat, 6 hours might as well be 6 years. She turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Blake, what do we know about the Zilani?" Blake's weathered face was grim as he consulted his screens. "They're one of the peaceful species, Captain. Part of the Galactic Harmony Alliance. Pacifist society, advanced in medicine and agricultural technology, but their military capabilities are limited." "Limited how?" "They don't have any. Their ships are built for research and trade, not combat. They've been under the protection of the Alliance for about 2 centuries. Chen stood and began pacing, a habit she developed during her years fighting in the Outer Rim conflicts. "What about their location? Are we talking about Alliance space?" "That's the thing, Captain," Blake continued, his voice dropping. "The coordinates put them in the neutral zone, right on the edge of Krek's territory." The bridge went dead silent. Everyone knew about the Kreks. They were one of the few species that gave humans pause, and humans weren't known for backing down from a fight. The Kreks were raiders, slavers, and worse. They'd been testing Alliance borders for months, probing for weaknesses. "Ma'am," came a tentative voice from the communications station. "I'm picking up something else. It's a follow-up transmission." Chen whirled around. "From the Zilani ship?" "No, Captain. It's from the Harmony Alliance Emergency Command. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting immediate assistance for any vessel capable of responding to the Zilani distress call." "Put it through." A new voice filled the bridge, this one belonging to Avorthan, their translator giving the multitonal language a slightly electronic quality. "To all Alliance vessels and independent ships in the sector, we have lost contact with Research Vessel Harmony. Last transmission indicated they were under attack by unknown hostiles. The vessel carries 43 Zilani civilians, including 12 younglings. Any ship capable of providing assistance is requested to respond immediately. The Alliance will provide full compensation for fuel and supplies, and consider this a formal request for aid under the Mutual Defense Compact." Chen closed her eyes. The Mutual Defense Compact. She'd helped write parts of that treaty after the siege of Kepler Station. It was designed to ensure that member species would help each other in times of crisis, but it also extended to any vessel operating in Alliance space, including human ships. "Captain," Blake said quietly, "the Prometheus is a fast attack cruiser. We've got enough firepower to take on a small fleet, but we're just one ship. If the Kreks have sent a full raiding party..." "I know the odds, Commander." Chen opened her eyes and looked around her bridge. 47 crew members, all of them volunteers who'd signed up to serve on one of humanity's most advanced warships. They'd all sworn an oath to protect the innocent, regardless of species. But there was more to it than just their oath. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. They were known as Deathworlders, beings who'd evolved on a planet so hostile that it had forged them into natural warriors. Earth's gravity, its violent weather, its predators, its diseases, all of it had combined to create a species that most aliens found slightly terrifying. Humans didn't just survive in conditions that would kill other species. They thrived. They adapted. And when pushed, they fought with a ferocity that had become legendary. Martinez, send a message back to Alliance Command, Chun ordered. Tell them the UES Prometheus is responding to the distress call. ETA to the coordinates is, what's our best time, Nash? Lieutenant Nash, their navigation officer, was already running calculations. At maximum burn, 4 hours and 37 minutes, Captain. 4.5 hours, Chen confirmed. Blake, I want all weapons systems checked and ready. Martinez, send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we're responding to an Alliance distress call and may need backup. Captain, Blake said, his voice careful, Earth Command is going to ask about the tactical situation. What do I tell them? Chen smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Tell them that someone attacked a ship full of civilians and children. Tell them that the attackers are probably Krex slavers. And tell them that if they want to send additional support, they'd better hurry. Blake nodded slowly. He'd served with Chen long enough to recognize the tone. She'd made her decision, and nothing was going to change her mind. Nash, plot a course for the Zilani coordinates. Maximum burn. Aye, Captain. All hands, this is the captain, Chen announced over the ship's intercom. We're responding to a distress call from a civilian vessel under attack. I won't lie to you, the odds aren't great. We're probably looking at a fight against superior numbers. But there are children on that ship, and they're counting on us. So we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to show up where we're not wanted and make the bad guys regret it. The bridge crew exchanged glances. They'd all heard stories about Captain Chen's previous missions. She had a reputation for pulling off impossible rescues and making enemies pay for their mistakes. ETA to destination, 4 hours and 28 minutes, Nash reported. Martinez, keep monitoring all frequencies. If there are any more transmissions from the Zilani ship, I want to know immediately. Aye, Captain. Chen settled back into her command chair and activated her personal console. She needed to review everything they knew about Krex tactics and capabilities. If they were going to save the Zilani, they needed every advantage they could get. 3 hours into their journey, Martinez's console lit up with an incoming priority transmission. Captain, we're getting a message from Earth Command. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was crisp and professional. Admiral Harrison, Chen's immediate superior. Captain Chen, we've received your situation report. I'm authorized to inform you that the UES Retribution, UES Vengeance, and UES Devastator are being deployed to support your mission. Chen felt a surge of relief. 3 heavy cruisers, each one more heavily armed than the Prometheus. What's their ETA, Admiral? 8 hours to your position. Captain, I need you to understand something. Intel suggests this isn't just a random raid. The Krex have been increasingly aggressive lately, and we think they're testing our response times and capabilities. Understood, sir. Are you ordering me to wait for backup? There was a pause. Negative, Captain. I know you, Chen. You're going to do what you think is right regardless of what I order. But be careful. The Krex aren't just after slaves this time. They're after something specific, and that makes them dangerous. Any idea what they're after? The Zilani ship wasn't just carrying civilians. It was carrying something else, something the Alliance has been very quiet about. We don't know what, but it's important enough that the Krex were willing to risk a major incident to get it. Chen felt a chill. Whatever was on that ship, it was big enough to potentially start a war. Admiral, if the Krex are willing to risk everything for this, then we can't let them have it. Agreed. But Chen, don't be a hero. If the situation is hopeless, you have my permission to withdraw and wait for backup. Understood, sir. Prometheus out. Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew had heard the conversation, and she could see the tension in their faces. They were good people, all of them. They'd signed up to serve humanity and protect the innocent, but they weren't stupid. They knew the odds. "Commander Blake," she said quietly, "what can you tell me about Krek's fleet tactics?" Blake consulted his tactical database. They typically operate in hunting packs of 3 to 5 ships. Fast, heavily armed, designed for quick strikes and rapid withdrawal. They prefer to overwhelm their targets with superior numbers and firepower. And their ships? Comparable to ours in terms of weapons and shielding, but they're less maneuverable. Their main advantage is numbers and the element of surprise. Chen nodded. So if we can take away their numbers advantage somehow. "Captain," Martinez interrupted, "I'm picking up something. It's faint, but I think it's another transmission." "From the Zolani ship?" "I think so. It's heavily degraded, but let me try to clean it up." Martinez worked at his console for several minutes, running the signal through various filters and enhancement protocols. Finally, a voice emerged from the static, the same melodic tones they'd heard before, but weaker now. "This is Research Vessel Harmony. We are still alive, but our situation is desperate. The attackers have disabled our engines and are attempting to board. We have barricaded ourselves in the secure sections, but they are cutting through our bulkheads. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help immediately. They are not here for slaves, they are searching for something specific. We cannot let them find it." The transmission cut off again. "That's all there is, Captain," Martinez reported. But the signal was much stronger this time. "I'd estimate they're only about 2 hours away now." Chen felt her pulse quicken. 2 hours. They could do this. Nash increased to emergency burn. "I want to cut that time in half. Captain, if we push the engines that hard, we'll be running on fumes by the time we get there. Then we'd better make our shots count. Blake, I want you to run every combat simulation you can think of. Assume we're outnumbered 3 to 1 and work backward from there." "Aye, Captain." Chen activated her personal communicator. "This is the captain. All department heads report to the bridge in 10 minutes. We're going to war." 10 minutes later, Chen's senior staff had assembled on the bridge. She looked around at their faces, determined, but scared. They were all experienced officers, but most of them had never been in a real combat situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "in approximately 90 minutes, we're going to drop out of hyperspace and probably find ourselves facing a superior enemy force. Our mission is to rescue the civilians on the Zolani ship and prevent whatever they're carrying from falling into Krek's hands." She gestured to the tactical display. "Here's what we know: the Zolani ship is disabled and under attack. The Kreks are boarding it, looking for something specific. We have backup coming, but it won't arrive for another 6 hours." Dr. Rebecca Foster, the ship's chief medical officer, raised her hand. "Captain, what do we know about Zolani physiology? If we're taking on survivors, I need to know how to treat them." "Good question. Blake?" "The Zolani are silicon-based, Captain. They're fragile compared to humans, but they can survive in our atmosphere. Dr. Foster, you'll need to adjust your medical protocols. Their blood is copper-based, and they're susceptible to sudden temperature changes." Foster nodded and made notes on her tablet. "Chief Ramirez," Chen continued, addressing her chief engineer, "I need you to prepare the ship for combat. Maximum power to shields and weapons. If we need to run, I want the engines ready for overload." "Understood, Captain. But if we overload the engines, we'll be dead in space afterward. Then we'd better not miss." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, the ship's operations officer, spoke up. "Captain, what about the civilians? If we're going into combat, we need to prepare sickbay for potential casualties. Dr. Foster will handle that. But Kim, I want you to prepare Cargo Bay 2 as a temporary refugee area. If we pull this off, we're going to have 43 scared aliens on our ship." "Aye, Captain." Chen looked around the room. "Any other questions?" "Captain," Blake said quietly, "what are our rules of engagement? Are we authorized to use lethal force?" Chen's expression hardened. Commander, the Kreks are attacking a civilian vessel with children aboard. They're slavers and murderers. Our rules of engagement are simple, we stop them by any means necessary. Blake nodded. Understood. All right, people. We've got work to do. Dismissed. As her officers filed out, Chen remained on the bridge with Blake and Martinez. She stared at the tactical display, trying to visualize the battle to come. Captain, Blake said quietly, are you sure about this? We could wait for backup. Commander, I've been in situations like this before. The moment we hesitate, the moment we second-guess ourselves, people die. The Zilani are counting on us. We're not going to let them down. But if we lose the ship, then we lose it fighting for something that matters. That's what we signed up for. Blake nodded slowly. He'd served with Chen long enough to know that arguing was pointless. She'd made her decision, and she'd stick to it no matter what. Martinez, any more transmissions? Nothing, Captain. But I'm monitoring all frequencies. Chen checked the chronometer. 1 hour and 15 minutes until they reached the Zilani coordinates. 1 hour and 15 minutes to prepare for what might be their last battle. Captain, Nash called out, we're getting some interesting readings on long-range sensors. There's a lot of debris in the area around the Zilani coordinates. What kind of debris? Metal fragments, energy signatures consistent with weapons fire. It looks like there was a major battle there recently. Chen felt a chill. How recent? Based on the dispersion patterns, I'd say within the last few hours. Captain, I don't think the Kreks just attacked the Zilani ship. I think they destroyed something else too. Any idea what? The debris pattern suggests it was a large vessel. Maybe a freighter or a passenger liner. Chen closed her eyes. How many ships had the Kreks attacked? How many people had they killed? The thought made her blood boil. Captain, Blake said, his voice tight, if the Kreks are willing to destroy civilian vessels, they're not going to hesitate to kill the Zilani. Then we'd better get there fast. Nash, how much can you push the engines? I can give you another 10%, but we'll be running on emergency power by the time we arrive. Do it. 53 minutes later, the Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zilani coordinates. What they found there made Chen's blood run cold. The debris field was massive. Twisted metal and frozen atmosphere crystals stretched across thousands of cubic kilometers. Emergency beacons flickered weakly among the wreckage, their automatic distress signals painting a picture of absolute destruction. My God, Martinez whispered. What happened here? There, Blake said, pointing to his tactical display. I've got the Zilani ship. Chen looked at the screen and felt her heart sink. The research vessel Harmony was barely recognizable. Its hull was scarred and punctured, its engines were dark, and atmosphere was venting from at least a dozen breaches. But it was still intact, and Chen could see energy signatures that meant someone was still alive inside. And there are our friends, Blake continued, his voice grim. 4 Kreks ships hung in space around the damaged Zilani vessel like predators circling wounded prey. They were sleek, angular things, all sharp edges and weapon ports. Chen had seen ships like them before, during the border wars. They were built for one purpose, killing. Captain, Martinez said urgently, I'm picking up transmissions from the Kreks ships. They're in their own language, but the computer is translating. Let me hear it. The voices that came through the speakers were harsh and guttural. Boarding Team Alpha, report status. The pathetic herbivores are still resisting. They have barricaded themselves in the core sections. We are cutting through now. Boarding Team Beta, what about the cargo holds? Searched and cleared. No sign of the target. It must be in the secured areas with the survivors. Then stop playing with them and finish the job. We have been here too long already. Chen felt her anger surge. The Kreks were talking about the Zilani like they were insects, obstacles to be swept aside. She looked around her bridge and saw the same fury reflected in her crew's faces. Captain, Blake said quietly, what are your orders? Chen studied the tactical display. For Krek's ships, each one roughly equivalent to the Prometheus in firepower. Under normal circumstances, attacking 4-to-1 odds would be suicide. But these weren't normal circumstances. Blake, I want you to target their engines first. If we can disable their ships, we can deal with the boarding parties later. Aye, Captain. Martinez, open a channel to the Krek's ships. Channel open. Chen stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. When she spoke, her voice was calm, professional, and absolutely deadly. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Prometheus. You are attacking a civilian vessel in violation of interstellar law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came quickly, filled with harsh laughter. Human. You are far from home, Deathworlder. This is not your concern. Turn around and go back to your little corner of the galaxy. I'm afraid I can't do that. The vessel you're attacking requested assistance, and we're responding. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. 30 seconds? You are one ship, human. We are 4. Your reputation may frighten other species, but we Kreks are not so easily intimidated. Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You should be. She cut the channel and turned to Blake. All weapons, target the lead ship. Fire on my mark. Weapons ready, Captain. Nash, as soon as we fire, I want you to put us into an attack pattern. Keep us moving, don't let them get a clean shot. Aye, Captain. Chen looked around her bridge one more time. Her crew was ready, their faces set with determination. They knew the odds, but they also knew what they were fighting for. Fire. The Prometheus erupted in light as her weapons systems engaged. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds screamed across space, slamming into the lead Krek ship with devastating force. The enemy vessel's shields flared and collapsed, and Chen watched with satisfaction as explosions bloomed along its hull. Direct hit. Blake reported. Their engines are disabled. But the other 3 Krek ships were already moving, their own weapons systems lighting up the darkness. Energy bolts and missile trails crisscrossed the space between the ships as the battle began in earnest. Incoming fire. Nash shouted, throwing the Prometheus into a tight spiral to avoid a spread of missiles. The ship shuddered as several energy bolts struck their shields. Chen gripped her command chair as the lights flickered and damage reports began coming in from all over the ship. Shields at 80%, Blake reported. But we got another one. Their second ship is venting atmosphere. Chen watched the tactical display as the battle unfolded. The Prometheus was faster and more maneuverable than the Krek ships, but they were taking fire from multiple directions. It was like fighting a pack of wolves, they were trying to surround her and tear her apart. Captain. Martinez called out. I'm getting a transmission from the Zalani ship. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was weak but determined. Human ship, this is Commander Teal of the research vessel Harmony. We are grateful for your assistance, but you must know, we are carrying something that cannot fall into Krek's hands. If capture seems inevitable, we will destroy our ship rather than let them have it. Chen felt her blood run cold. If the Zalani destroyed their ship, they'd take 43 innocent lives with them. Commander Teal, this is Captain Chen. Do not destroy your ship. We're here to help, and we're not going to let the Kreks take anything from you. Captain, I hope you understand what you are fighting for. The cargo we carry could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Kreks must not. The transmission cut off as another wave of weapons fire lit up the space around them. Captain. Blake shouted. 2 more Krek ships are moving to attack the Zalani vessel directly. Chen looked at the tactical display and saw the horrifying truth. The Kreks had realized that the Prometheus was too dangerous to ignore, but they were also running out of time. They were going to try to destroy the Zalani ship rather than let it escape. Nash, intercept course. Maximum burn. Aye, Captain. The Prometheus leaped forward, her engine screaming as she raced to put herself between the Krek ships and their target. Chen watched the distance close on her tactical display. They were going to make it, but just barely. Blake, everything we have. Target their weapons systems. Firing. The Prometheus unleashed everything in her arsenal. Plasma bolts, railgun rounds, and missile spreads all converged on the two attacking Krex ships. One of them disappeared in a brilliant explosion as its reactor went critical. The other staggered under the impact, its hull cracking open like an egg. But the third ship was still out there, and it was angry. Incoming missiles. Nash yelled. I can't avoid them all. Chen felt the Prometheus shudder as 3 missiles struck their starboard shields. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the lights went out for a moment before emergency power kicked in. Shields at 30%. Blake reported. Hull breaches on decks 6 and 7. Damage control teams, respond. Chen ordered. She looked at the tactical display and saw that they'd disabled 3 of the 4 Krex ships, but the last one was still dangerous. Captain, Blake said urgently, the last Krex ship is moving to ram the Zilani vessel. If they hit at that speed, both ships will be destroyed. Chen felt time slow down as she processed the situation. The Krex ship was accelerating toward the helpless Zilani vessel. At their current trajectory, they'd impact in less than 60 seconds. The Prometheus could intercept them, but it would mean putting themselves directly in the path of a ship-killing collision. Nash, intercept course. Put us between them and the Zilani ship. Captain, at that speed, the impact will destroy both ships. I know. Do it anyway. Chen looked around her bridge and saw the faces of her crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. They knew what she was asking of them, and they were willing to make the sacrifice. All hands, brace for impact, she announced over the intercom. It's been an honor serving with you all. The Prometheus surged forward, her engines pushed far beyond their safety limits. Chen watched the distance close on her tactical display, 50,000 kilometers, 40,000, 30,000. And then something impossible happened. The space around them suddenly filled with new contacts. Dozens of them, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Chen looked at her tactical display and felt her heart leap. The cavalry had arrived. Captain! Martinez shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. I'm reading 47 ships on approach. They're broadcasting Alliance identification codes. Chen looked at the tactical display and saw the most beautiful sight of her career. The reinforcements weren't just Alliance ships, they were the entire Deathworlder fleet. Every human vessel within 50 light-years had responded to their distress call. Leading the formation was the UES Retribution, Admiral Harrison's flagship. Behind it came heavy cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and even a few of the new Dreadnought-class ships that most aliens had never seen before. All Krex vessels, came Admiral Harrison's voice over the communications channel, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The last functional Krex ship stopped its attack run and tried to flee, but it was too late. The Deathworlder fleet had positioned itself in a perfect sphere around the battle zone. There was nowhere to run. Captain Chen, Admiral Harrison continued, excellent work. Fall back and let us handle the cleanup. Chen slumped in her command chair, suddenly exhausted. They'd done it. They'd saved the Zilani ship and prevented whatever was aboard from falling into Krex hands. Martinez, open a channel to the Zilani ship. Channel open, Captain. Commander Teal, this is Captain Chen. The area is secure. We're sending medical teams and engineers to assist with repairs. Captain Chen, came the grateful reply, we cannot thank you enough. You risked everything to save us. That's what we do, Commander. That's what we do. 2 hours later, Chen stood in the Prometheus's main cargo bay, which had been converted into a temporary medical facility. Dr. Foster and her team were working frantically to treat the wounded Zilani survivors, while Chief Ramirez supervised the repair teams that were patching up the research vessel Harmony. The Zilani were fascinating to watch. They moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost like dancing, their crystalline features catching the light in beautiful patterns. Despite their ordeal, they were incredibly polite and grateful, constantly thanking the human crew for their help. "Captain," Dr. Foster called out, "I think you should see this." Chen walked over to where Foster was examining a young Zolani, one of the children they'd rescued. The little being was barely the size of a human 5-year-old, but its eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost ancient. "This is Kara," Foster explained. "She's been asking for you specifically." Chen knelt down to bring herself to the child's eye level. "Hello, Kara. I'm Captain Chen." The young Zolani's voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Captain Chen, I wanted to thank you. You saved my family. We all worked together to save you, Kira. That's what people do, we help each other. The scary ones with the sharp teeth, they wanted to take something from our ship. Something very important." Chen felt a chill. "Do you know what it was?" Kara nodded solemnly. "It was a message. A message from the ancients." Before Chen could ask what she meant, Commander Teal appeared beside them. The Zolani commander looked exhausted but determined. "Captain Chen, we need to talk. Privately." Chen nodded and led Teal to a quieter corner of the cargo bay. "What can I do for you, Commander? You need to understand what you risked your life to protect. The cargo we were carrying, it's not just important to the Zolani. It could change everything." "What kind of message?" Teal was quiet for a long moment. 3 months ago, our Deep Space Research Station picked up a signal. It was coming from the galactic core, from a region that our astronomers thought was uninhabitable. The signal was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and it was directed at us. Chen felt her pulse quicken. "Directed at you specifically?" "At the Zolani, at the Alliance, at all the younger species. It was a message from the ancients, the species that built the hyperspace gates, that left ruins on 1,000 worlds, that disappeared without a trace 50,000 years ago." "My God! What did it say?" "It was a warning, Captain. The ancients didn't disappear. They were driven away by something that's coming back." Chen stared at the Zolani commander. "Coming back? Coming back from where?" "From the dark space between galaxies. The ancients called them the Devourers. They're a species that consumes entire civilizations, that strips worlds bare of life and moves on to the next target." "And they're coming here?" "According to the message, they've been traveling for 50,000 years. They're almost here now, maybe a few decades away at most." Chen felt the weight of the universe settling on her shoulders. That's why the Kreks wanted the message. They thought they could use it somehow. The Kreks are fools. They thought they could negotiate with the Devourers, maybe offer them other species in exchange for their own survival. But the ancients were very clear, the Devourers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They simply consume everything in their path. Then why did the ancients send the message? If the situation is hopeless. Because it's not hopeless, Captain. The ancients left us something, a weapon, a tool, a key to their technology. It's hidden somewhere in the galaxy, and the message contains the clues to finding it." Chen looked around the cargo bay at her crew working alongside the Zolani survivors. Humans and aliens working together, helping each other, proving that cooperation was possible even across species lines. "Commander, I need to ask you something. Are you willing to share this information with the Alliance? With all the species?" "Of course. This threat affects everyone." "Then I think we need to call a meeting. The biggest meeting in galactic history." 3 days later, Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus as they approached Earth's orbital shipyards. The sight that greeted them was unlike anything she'd ever seen before. Ships from dozens of species filled the space around Earth. Alliance vessels, independent freighters, even a few ships from species that had never visited the Sol system before. The message had spread quickly through diplomatic channels, and everyone wanted to know what was so important that the infamous Deathworlder fleet had mobilized. "Captain," Martinez reported, "we're getting a transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through." Admiral Harrison's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Chen, you've certainly stirred up a hornet's nest. Half the galaxy is demanding to know what happened out there. They're about to find out, Admiral. Is the assembly ready? As ready as we can make it. The Security Council is in session, and we have representatives from 43 species standing by for your briefing. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. In a few hours, she would be standing before the leaders of the galaxy, telling them that everything they thought they knew about the universe was wrong. Admiral, I need to ask you something. Are we ready for this? Are we ready to face something that drove the ancients away? There was a pause. Captain, 3 days ago, one human ship faced impossible odds to save 43 civilians. Today, the entire Deathworlder fleet is here to back you up. If the Devourers think they can intimidate us, they're going to learn what every other species has learned: humans don't back down from a fight. Chen smiled. No, sir. We don't. Good. Because if this threat is real, we're going to need every advantage we can get. The assembly begins in 2 hours. Don't be late. We'll be there, Admiral. As the Prometheus docked at the orbital station, Chen looked out at the assembled fleet. Ships from across the galaxy, all united by the knowledge that they faced a common enemy. It was the largest gathering of military forces in recorded history, and it was all because one ship had answered a distress call. Captain, Blake said quietly, do you think we can win? Against something that defeated the ancients? Chen thought about the question for a long moment. Commander, the ancients were advanced, but they were just one species. We're not just one species. We're dozens of them, all working together. And we have something the ancients didn't have. What's that? We have humans. We have Deathworlders. We have a species that learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every single day. The Devourers may have defeated the ancients, but they've never faced anything like us. Chen looked around her bridge one more time. Her crew was ready, the ship was ready, and the galaxy was ready. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. All right, people. Let's go save the galaxy. The Security Council chamber was unlike anything Chen had ever seen. Representatives from dozens of species sat in a circular arrangement, their various forms of life creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Humans sat next to insectoid Vrex, who sat next to the gaseous Luminari, who sat next to the crystalline Zelani. At the center of the chamber stood a holographic projector, currently displaying the message that had started it all. The ancient text scrolled across the display in lines of elegant script, with translations appearing in dozens of languages. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various classifications, began Secretary General Martinez, a human diplomat who had been elected to lead the Alliance 3 years earlier, we are gathered here today to address a threat that affects every species in the galaxy. He gestured to Chen, who stood at the speaker's podium. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Prometheus will brief us on the situation. Chen stepped forward and looked around the chamber. Every eye, optical sensor, and sensory organ was focused on her. She took a deep breath and began.